sisters, stop marrying out. Black sisters, don't go for these racist white men. Oh, you black sisters, you coons. The black man is playing a game. The black sausage is playing a game. The black King Kong dick is playing a game. Because the black King Kong dick won't build you an empire. He won't build you a civilization. He won't buy a mansion and make you live in it. He won't support you, but he'll fuck you. He won't marry you, but he'll turn you to his whore. And when you've had enough, and you says, I want to be treated like the queen that I am, and you go and find yourself a lovely white man, that same King Kong wants to interfere with your happiness by pretending it was your fault.
Welcome to my channel. This is Divested Diamonds. You have arrived. Hello, ladies. Please do me a favor and click the like button as you watch this video. Thank you. Thank you kindly. Okay, so I see a lot of new subscribers. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being part of this group of women who value self-preservation over the preservation of a harmful community. Everybody is on different levels of divestment here, so you don't need to feel left out. And as a lot of diamonds will tell you, divestment is more than just dating or marrying outside of your race. It's all about having a full overview of your own existence, recognizing parts of you that need improvement, and working on yourself to be the best possible version of you. However, divestors have acquired a bad reputation for being brutal extremists because here's the thing. We have a lot of haters and also we refuse to help fix the so-called Black community, and most of us just want to live our lives unbothered by the likes of Pookie, Ray Ray, Glocktavius, and the Mammy Pick-Me's who find value in fake allyship with other Black women just so they could turn around and use them as bait for the low-hanging fruit that they love so much. In this space, you will find educated Black women because over here, we celebrate our accomplishments because we are proud of who we are as Black women. We celebrate women who haven't gone as far as your traditional college, right? But invested their natural talents in bettering themselves. I'm talking about business owners, women who are working hard for a better life, creating jobs, and living their dreams. Over here, we celebrate and support women who are waking up from the Black community coma and realizing that they need to do better for themselves because they have been bamboozled by the so-called community and used as mules to keep Blackistani dysfunction alive. So yeah, you're going to meet very interesting, very smart women who want to separate themselves completely from the goings-on of the so-called community. This lifestyle has never been about groups of bitter Black women congregating and hating on Black men. I personally couldn't care less what Black men are up to, as long as they stop unaliving Black women and girls. Now, is that going to happen? Probably not, but we need to do whatever it takes to reduce our proximity to such individuals by elevating our stations in life. It could be something as simple as aligning yourself with like-minded women who wish to see a bright future for themselves. Now, I know that there is no such thing as a sisterhood, right? And I think that we're all aware of this. What true divestors would like to see is a change in the number of Black women and girls being deleted. That's first and foremost. We would also like to address our traumas because it doesn't matter whether you're from Blackistan or the suburbs, we all have something we need to work on, internally externally, or both. And in my experience, I have found it helpful and productive to be around people with similar interests. I gravitate towards people who have a creative spirit. As a writer and an artist, I tend to be around people whose brains I can pick, and people who inspire me to do better. People I can learn from, and hopefully they can learn from me too. After all, these relationships are reciprocal, right? One thing I have noticed within the so-called community are a bunch of people who don't give a damn about elevation. Most Black people are okay with you as long as they view you as equal or beneath them. Blackistan does not encourage people to do better because it's always easier to blame everyone else for their problems. Victimhood has actually been taken on as a badge of honor by people who refuse to do better. Look at the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, for instance. If you grew up watching that show or caught it later in life, you probably noticed, or perhaps not, the portrayal of Carlton Banks, a man who most people in Blackistan would consider less Black because he was well-spoken, educated, didn't identify with the struggles of Will, whose character's background was built on struggle and the dysfunction of Blackistan. In earlier seasons, Will constantly made jokes about Carlton simply because they didn't share the same life experiences. Coming from a privileged background, Carlton was made the butt of every joke simply because he wasn't born into a life of poverty like Will was. A lot of people tuned into that show for Will while secretly liking Carlton, but they couldn't say that out loud because it wouldn't be considered cool. The only time it became somewhat okay for Carlton to be accepted and handed over the quote-unquote Black card was when there was a lesson to be learned, which would end up in the two cousins hugging it out and accepting each other's differences. Blackistan has a way of hindering one's growth. And if you spent time listening to people who uphold the lack of progression in that cesspool, you will never make it far in life. The aim is to keep a high percentage of men and majority of Black women and girls enslaved to the mindset of those who terrorize the so-called community. And it's all done in an effort to stunt your growth and keep things the same. This is why pick-me mammies and their kings sound exactly the same. They operate from the same book of delusions and low vibration. Growth is not promoted because with that comes change. And change means adjusting and possibly doing better. Now, while I do understand that none of us have the power to choose our parents, nor do we have the capability to be able to control the circumstances in which we're born, we must always strive to do better and make the best of our existence. The so-called community wants Black women and girls to think on a community level, while Black men and boys encourage each other to think and do for themselves on an individual basis. They look at us the same way that they looked at the Carlton character, right? They couldn't relate to him because he didn't share their experiences. They loathed him for having privilege, even though that was something that he was born into. Rather than aspire to be like him or the Uncle Phil character who had made something of himself, they gravitated towards Will, a person who never took life seriously despite his newly found privilege. One thing about the so-called community is that as long as you're pandering to their needs and helping them feel better about themselves, By placating to their insecurities, you get rewarded by terms such as queen and good woman, as long as you're enduring the pain and suffering of being attached to them. Divestors, on the other hand, know better than to touch these males with a 10-foot pole. We have used the same education that they frown upon to elevate ourselves and live our best lives because we don't care to dim our light in order to make theirs brighter while shitting on ourselves. That would be pure madness. This is why they show up on my channel asking stupid questions like, "Divested Diamonds, where is your white man at? Did he pass you up at the auction block?" Really? Wow. Bitter much, sir? Do you see how pressed they get? He is just one of many terrorists that I'm talking about. He thinks that by using slavery-toned language, I'm somehow going to be hurt, but no. It's like water off a duck's back. See, men like him are to be used as a footstool. He is conquered, his balls hang low, he's fresh out of testosterone, high on estrogen, and quite simply, bitch-made. People like him would be so quick to call a woman a female dog, but they're the ones who are the real bitches, salivating at the mouth, trying to get my attention because besides his five-finger girlfriend, the most action he gets is trolling Black women's channels, women that he can't have or even afford. This is not the lottery, honey. You can't just try your luck, cross your fingers, and potentially win something. I'm a priceless diamond, honey. Go back to Blackistan for your cubic zirconia. And of course, he continued because I stayed silent before responding to one of his comments in which he says, "Divested Diamonds, you Black women love your gay stylist." And have more respect, insert rainbow flag, than straight heterosexual Black men. Looks like someone's really hurt. But what am I to do? Poor little Day Day needed his diaper changed because it was filling up with shit. He's on the bottle now, so no breast milk for you, little Day Day. I was forced to respond in order to put little Day Day to sleep. And I said, "Stop projecting, sir. I don't have any of what you've described in my life. Try again." Divestment means walking away from toxicity and preventing yourself from engaging in it. I don't need a gay man to do my hair or makeup. I don't play those types of games. Do you think I did this video for fun? Don't ever address me with such foolishness. So, Day Day dear, don't ever come here talking out of your ass and think that I won't bite back. Oh, and in case you haven't noticed, you've been blocked. I was choking. Excuse me. I was choking from all the dust that you left in the comment section. I'm sorry. Excuse me. What you don't understand, little Day Day, is that we like to keep it nice and dust-free on Divestment Avenue. No hooligans or riffraff are allowed here. Black women keep getting the Carlton treatment because we show them up. We make them feel inferior because of our accomplishments. And that is why they keep dreaming of going to faraway land to try their luck with foreign women because they have exhausted their options here. They keep hoping that they are going to find these mysterious, gullible women overseas to put up with their BS. But every woman that they get involved with gets the same results. Shocker. And of course, that didn't end there. I had Bozo the Clown show up, and this is what he had to say. Fake divested to whomever or whatever. Maybe you should try harder to keep the black men out of your mouth. Aren't you divested? Was that supposed to be a statement or a question? But we're not going to bother with the manner in which this was written. I think that you ladies see exactly what I see. I do believe that I mentioned in that video that he commented on why I continue to talk about black men. But as usual, these grapes are tone deaf. And just like the Will Smith character in The Fresh Prince, you can give them an opportunity to do better. They don't pay attention because the only thing that they value the most is their improperly punctuated opinion. Here's a fact. I will never stop talking about black males as long as graveyards keep piling up with black women and girls. I'll stop when you stop. And we all know that's never going to happen. So get used to it. Get used to black divested women talking about you, because those of us who care what happens to black women and girls will not be silenced because you don't like it. Kiss my ass. Let me repeat that. Kiss my ass. Who the hell do you think you are to tell me what I can and cannot talk about? Do you understand activism? Are you dense? Just because I'm divested, it doesn't mean that I have to turn a blind eye to what you grapes are doing. The problem here is you think that when divestors talk about you, it's because they want to be with you. Everything boils down to low vibrational reasoning with you. You are dangerous criminals, deleters, and molesters who have gotten away with doing heinous things to black women and girls. And you want us to stay quiet? Why? So you could continue to do what you've always done? That's not going to happen. You might be a protected group of people, right? Because everybody knows you're a protected class. We're not. If black women want these issues out there to raise awareness and warn unassuming young black women on the nasty ways of a lot of you black men, then that's exactly what's going to happen. What are you going to do about it? Huh? What are you going to do about it? I've said this before and I'll say it again. I'm a woman first. Everything else comes after. The so-called community does not elevate black women and girls. They use women and girls to fulfill their perversions, like what happened to Pieper Lewis. Pieper was 15 years old when she was AR'd by 37-year-old Zachary Brooks. Now 17, Lewis has spent the last 2 years in a juvenile detention facility awaiting trial for the manslaughter of Brooks, who had taken part in her sex trafficking. After pleading guilty, Lewis was ordered to pay Brooks' family $150,000. Now, make that make sense. Pieper Lewis ran away from home at 15 to escape an abusive stepmother. After experiencing homelessness and sleeping in an apartment building stairwell, she was taken in by Christopher Brown, 28, who began forcing her to have sex with multiple men in exchange for money and drugs. One of those men was Brooks, whom Lewis stabbed to deletion after he AR'd her at knife point. Lewis was charged with first-degree deletion then pleaded guilty to manslaughter and willful injury, both carrying prison sentences of up to 10 years. Rather than send her to an adult prison, which I guess they could have done in the strange state of Iowa, the presiding judge, David Porter, sentenced Lewis to 5 years of supervised probation and ordered her to pay $150,000 to Brooks' family. The court is cognizant that you and your supporters will be frustrated with the imposition of the $150,000 in restitution to Mr. Brooks' estate. Porter said, "This court is presented with no other option other than which is dictated by the law of this state. Iowa law states that anyone convicted of deleting a person is required to pay the individual's family $150,000 regardless of circumstances. An additional $4,000 is owed to the state." At the sentencing hearing, Lewis gave a prepared statement about the suffering that she had endured both at the hands of her abusers and the 834 days she spent in jail awaiting trial. Lewis earned her GED in the 2 years she was detained with no contact to friends or family. "My spirit has been burned, but still glows through the flames," she said. "Hear me roar, see me glow, and watch me grow. I'm a survivor." Prosecution during the trial would not allow Lewis to refer to herself as a quote-unquote victim, claiming she stabbed Brooks while he was asleep and therefore was not a threat to her. Both police and prosecutors do not doubt that she was essayed by Brooks prior to the deletion. Lewis has never denied stabbing Brooks and has stated that she regrets what happened that day. "I took a person's life. My intentions that day were not just to go out and take somebody's life," she told the judge. "In my mind, I felt that I wasn't safe, and I felt that I was in danger, which resulted in the act. It doesn't take away from the fact that a crime was committed, but to say that there was only one victim is absurd." And I absolutely agree with her. Had that male still been alive, he would have gone on with his life, victimizing more and more young girls, terrorizing and traumatizing young girls and women. I applaud her for fighting back, no matter how gruesome it may have been. I'm not advocating for the deletion of others, but I do believe that when you are caught in dangerous situations, it's fight or flight. And because this young lady was abducted and enslaved, pimped out as though she were worth nothing, she did what was necessary to get herself out of that situation. What's mind-boggling to me is that stupid law, the one that adds insult to injury, as if her experiences weren't brutal and traumatizing enough. She had to be forced to pay her aurist, pedophile, criminal pimp who used her body at knife point the extortionate sum of $150,000 for deleting him. So not only was she abused, trafficked, and used for the pleasure of these degenerates, she now has to pay the family of her abuser for taking out the trash? Make it make sense. Where is the justice? Her nightmare might be temporarily over, but her mind still bears the horrific memories, the scars of what happened to her. She will carry that with her for as long as she lives. As for the male and what happened to him, it's good riddance to bad rubbish as far as I'm concerned. She has my support 100%. So for all you slow black males who keep asking why we talk about black males if we are so divested, this is the reason why. I'll stop when you stop. This is the demon who violated that young lady. This is Zachary Brooks. Remember, he was 37 when he violated her at knife point. She was 15. So, ask me again why the fuck I keep talking about black males if I'm so divested. This grape was so lucky that Pieper Lewis did not do a Lorena Bobbitt on his ass. Ask me that stupid question again. You mother effers are animals. You have no respect for human life, especially the female form. You think that you have the right to any girl or woman, and that is why you are so self-pedestalizing and self-entitled. You think you can do whatever you want because you feel you are beyond reproach. Trash. Absolute trash. For those of you who still feel like asking me that stupid question again, here's my advice to you. Go and watch a movie called I Spit on Your Grave. Not the original from 1978. Watch the other version from 2010. And when you're done, come back and ask me that question again. Enjoy. The so-called community does not value black girls and women. This is why they are left to fight and fend for themselves. And for those of you who keep bussy popping in the comment section, talking about how this happens in every community, let me ask you something. Why is it so important for you to compare and contrast degeneracy? Why do you always have to compete with other communities to see who's most depraved? What would this situation have to do with other communities? Why can't you just straighten your shit out without making comparisons to other people? You can miss me with that. I'm so sick and tired of y'all. You're always worrying about the wrong things, and that is why your community is so fucked up. This young lady was discarded by her own family, it seems. Demons took advantage of her, but let me tell you who realized the impact that this case would have on her future and offered a helping hand. Her old math teacher from a school she had attended. This is who came forward to help her. Because he realized that $150,000 on a kid her age is too much of a burden to carry. Why would she have to start her adult life with that amount of debt hanging over her head? It's not okay. Leland Shipper started a GoFundMe for Pieper to assure her that she would not have to cover the restitution costs herself. He wanted to at least make sure that she would start her life by attending college or start a business going forward. This is what he had to say. Today, my former student, Pieper Lewis, bravely took the microphone during her sentencing hearing and told the courtroom that her voice mattered. He wrote on the campaign page, "I was incredibly proud of her. She was powerful and she brought me to tears." He continued, "Pieper does not owe that man's family justice. Pieper does not deserve to be financially burdened for the rest of her life because the state of Iowa wrote a law that fails to give judges any discretion as to how it is applied. This law doesn't make sense in many cases, but in this case, it's morally unjustifiable. A child who was AR'd, under no circumstances should she owe the artist's family money." Mr. Shipper set the GoFundMe at $200,000, and last I checked, the money raised was up to $560,416. I mean, the kindness of this man to do what he did is absolutely heartwarming. And the people who actually took the time to read what happened to her and found it in their hearts to donate May the Divine Mother bless them. And also, if you're interested in donating, I'm just putting it out there. I'll leave the link to her GoFundMe in the description bar below. Now, let's talk about educated Black women who choose to invest in the Black community, even if it's to their own detriment. Do you remember Andrew Gillum? He had a bright future ahead of him, but decided to mess it up because he couldn't control his own sex drive. He allowed his extramarital activities to ruin him and his career. Again, they can sit online and blame everything on a lack of opportunities or blame white supremacy all they want. But most times, things don't work out because they do it to themselves. The problem is, Black women who are obsessed with them will back them up no matter what. Even the educated ones. The mammies are stuck on the unicorn dream and can't seem to find a way to separate themselves from the mythical, good Black man, as was the case with Andrew Gillum's wife, RJ. Now, I'm sure a lot of you already know this story, but we're going to talk about it anyway. On March 12th of 2020, Andrew Gillum, the Democratic gubernatorial candidate who was going against current governor of the state of Florida, Ron DeSantis, was out in Miami for a friend's wedding that he was set to officiate. The day before the ceremony, Gillum told GQ that he spent the day drinking heavily on the beach. At some point in the evening, he said that he met up with 30-year-old nurse and sex worker whom he claimed to have met a few months prior. The two of them decided to leave the beach and took an Uber to a South Beach hotel. While at the hotel, the guy offered Gillum something to drink, and I guess that was the beginning of the end. Can I also mention that while all of this mess was going on, his wife was in Miami too? Let me tell you something. These down low men are the worst. A lot of you Black women don't mind sharing, honey, because most of you are out here giving bisexual man a chance. But anyway, we saw the kind of night that Andrew Gillum and Travis Dyson had when everything was revealed in the tabloids. Photos from the hotel room where he spent the night with his escort lover, whom he had met on Grindr, were very damning. The room was a mess. Bodily fluids all over the bed, pillows, and the bathroom. He was pictured with vomit around his mouth, and he was naked. And the original pictures show his ding-a-ling just hanging out in a very compromising position. He was passed out, cold, and apparently there was a third person involved whom Gillum said he didn't know. He later stated that it was a setup. According to his lover, the two had met several times before where Gillum had paid for sex and drugs were involved. And during that same night, they had both taken ecstasy pills called G, typically used by gay men to enhance sex drive. There was erectile dysfunction medication found, as well as other pills, and his Grindr lover had taken pictures of him passed out on the floor and sent them to his friends. And to think that after everything that had happened that night, his wife still found it in her heart to forgive him is wildly astonishing. How she would put up with that is crazy to me. And when they were interviewed by Tamron Hall, all I could see was a broken woman who had somehow been coerced into protecting a man who most likely wouldn't have done the same for her. I mean, she can't be blamed for what he did, but she certainly made herself look like a fool for staying. It's a real shame that she didn't cut her losses to save her dignity. She should have taken those kids out of that crazy situation and dealt with him through the court system. And I think a lot of women would have empathized with her. Andrew and RJ revealed that him being bisexual was something that they both knew and that one day it would be revealed. I call BS on that. I do strongly believe that she was covering for him because everything she said in that interview seemed coached and a little too rehearsed. But to each their own. Now, I just want to bring something to your attention. Please listen to what he says in the following clip and listen carefully.
Well, it's interesting to have you both together now. Andrew, you were crying. I could hear you and see you when I was talking to RJ. And even now I can see it coming. Why is it so difficult to sit here with her and discuss this, knowing that you've put it all on the table?
I mean, I've always known about RJ's, her resilience, her strength, how much she's believed in me, how much she's always had my back. And it was put into words in a way that I hadn't heard before.
Her resilience, her strength, how much she believes in me, how much she's had my back. Those words alone are enough to let me know who keeps this relationship together. RJ is being used as a mule because Andrew knows that no matter what he does, she's not going anywhere. The conditioning of a lot of Black women when it comes to their kings transcends these women's station in life. It doesn't matter if it's Lakeisha from Blackistan or RJ from the suburbs. A lot of the mindset towards pedestalizing Black men is the same. And being an educated Black woman doesn't always mean that you're exempt from this type of behavior. The deer caught in the headlights look is a clear indicator that even though the lights are on upstairs, nobody's home. It tells me all I need to know about her willingness to participate in this sham of a marriage, even though it's to her own detriment. This is exactly what I meant when I said in one of my other videos that some Black women are addicted to toxicity. There is obviously something going on with her, something deep that needs to be addressed because somehow she has sought refuge in toxicity and kept herself busy as the cleanup woman for another person's trauma. This is not love. And this is not cute. This is codependency. This is toxicity, and she's playing a role. I wish that someone would say, cut, so she could wake up from this lifelong dream of foolishness. We as divestors talk about having standards, and yes, those are important in making sure that you find someone who meets your needs. Most Black women, unfortunately, lack the ability to pick correctly because most have been taught to downgrade in order to accommodate others. Most have been taught to accept flaws in others that they wouldn't accept in themselves. Most have been taught to sacrifice themselves with the promise of something better in the future. Most have been taught to embrace hope with the promise of a reward. All this does is keep Black women on a hamster wheel, spinning round and round with no end in sight. Black women need to get into the habit of putting a stop to things that do not make them happy. Black women need to concentrate on themselves and what they need. Relationships are a two-way street. And if someone isn't giving you what you need, it's time to say goodbye. You have every right to say no to any situation that doesn't serve or benefit you. Think about it this way. If you are jumping through hoops, doing everything for other people, who is jumping through hoops for you? Why is it incumbent upon you to make things work? What are you gaining from those situations? One word comes to mind: reciprocity. We need to embrace it with the same energy used in these dead-end relationships. On that note, what are your thoughts on what's been discussed here today? Please leave your thoughts and comments down below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And remember, ladies, divest, divest, divest. Thank you so much for watching. This is Divested Diamonds, and I'll see you next time. Bye, Diamonds.